All right, good morning, guys. This is the morning prep video, about 5:45 right now. So I've been up since about 3:30 this morning, getting ready for today's session, getting myself as well as the Focus Trades group ready to kick some ass. So here's what you guys got to know this morning. Heading into today's session, we got the ES here in the hourly squeeze. So if this squeeze fires today, guys, and which direction it squeezes in, probably going to set the tone for today's session and possibly the week. But importantly for today's session, we got this hourly squeeze here. Whichever ways this fires, whether it be to the upside through 28.85, whether it be to the downside underneath 28.21, probably going to set the tone for today. So granted, we got about 4 hours until the market opens, but this is definitely something, guys, to keep an eye on here this morning and as we head into the session. And listen up, family, before I jump into my focus list, if you aren't already, make sure you give me a follow on Instagram at Focus Trades. You can check me out on Twitter at Focus Trades T, and then definitely check us out at focustrades.com. So guys, going to make this pretty quick and simple. We got a few setups we're going to focus on today that we can play to the upside if the market is strong. A few different setups you can look at if the market is weak, as well as a few potential swing ideas. So one setup that I do like that you really could play either direction is Roku here. So Roku gets this big ass move after earnings, runs up towards 132-ish, consolidates. Now we got this tight hourly squeeze. So depending on how the market is looking into the open, you can look to play this squeeze either direction. My preference, guys, is to take a position inside the squeeze, get those calls or puts, whatever I'm looking for, while they're nice and cheap before the implied volatility spikes. That way, once the move happens, if it happens in my direction, you get an outsized return. So I do like the Roku squeeze here on the hourly chart. You got some resistance at 130, 132.5. We're going to keep an eye on that one today, should the market show us some signs of strength. All right, guys, so next we got DBX here, Dropbox. Not typically a name I ever talk about, but it's something I am going to give a shot right here. So depending on how the options look this morning, again, it's not a name I'm familiar with. I'm not sure if the options are very liquid, if there's a tight spread. If the options look healthy enough, I'm thinking about swinging some May 15th calls, guys, as this thing is setting up in a beautiful squeeze, as it's also getting, some buy recommendations, and it happens to be in a hot space at the moment. Dropbox here falls into that stay-at-home category, along with names like Zoom and a few others. That's obviously been a hot space as of late. A few days ago, Barron's actually suggested, to buy Dropbox here. So with a potential catalyst, with a little bit of news around it, with this daily squeeze rather, and with it being in a hot sector, I'm looking to get some calls here, guys, before this squeeze breaks while it's still inside the Bollinger Bands, looking for this thing to break and fire and get a nice move to the upside. So again, I'll see how the options look here this morning. If they're liquid enough, if there's a good spread, I'll be grabbing a couple of those. All right, guys, next is INO, Inovia Pharmaceuticals. They're starting to emerge as a potential, name in this whole COVID treatment race. But more importantly to me, we got a beautiful squeeze here on the daily chart. So you got a daily squeeze combined with a stock that is obviously in a hot space right now. All these names in the race to kind of help in the cure of coronavirus. It's also gotten some upgrades over the weekend. And guys, there is speculation and a little bit of, news floating around, or rumors floating around rather, about some potential news today. On top of this, there was some massive orders, not only in the equity, but as well as the options last week for INO. You stack all those things together, guys. A, historically profitable setup, the daily squeeze. You combine that with recent upgrades over the weekend. You combine that with some shitload of big-time buying last week, and some potential news potentially coming out today. This is what I'm willing to take a shot on. So we look at the options for INO and, take a few things into consideration. If you're trying to bank on, there being potential news here today, I would go with the in-the-money calls, guys. You start messing out with the out-the-monies, obviously you can hit a home run if the trade works. But the thing is that, this thing's going to squeeze right now. If it continues to squeeze for the next few days, your out-the-money weeklies are just going to get, they're going to get all the premium sucked out of them. So if you're looking for a shorter-term move, if you think this thing could break this week, you'd want to go in the money. If you're looking for, say, a longer-term swing, again, this is a cheaper name. We got to see how the options are this morning as far as liquidity and the tightness of the spread. But I do like the setup, guys, and I do like, the list of potential catalysts that make this, at least in my eyes, a potential A+ setup. And last but not least, guys, this is more of a lotto trade to me. So it's a trade that if it does work, it might be a killer return. If it doesn't work, it's whatever. But we got SPG here, Simon Property Group. So guys, this week, Neiman Marcus, the retailer, is set to file for bankruptcy. SPG here, they hold the vast majority of the leases on Neiman Marcus, right? Meaning the properties that Neiman Marcus, runs a business through. SPG here, they control the vast majority of those. So with this company controlling the vast majority of those leases, and now with Neiman Marcus itself set to file for bankruptcy, it could be bad news for SPG here. So we can see, guys, the market rolls over. Obviously, this thing gets torn to freaking shreds. Makes one good bounce around 42. Comes back down, bounces again off 42. If this news is negative, this thing is probably going to make a quick move back towards 42 and then even begin to fill the gap to the downside, heading towards 40. So for this potential kind of lottery trade, guys, looking at the 15th of May expirations, and I'm going to go with the monies and grab a couple of those 40s. If it doesn't happen, it's whatever. If this news is bad enough that this thing gets torn apart, goes down and fills that gap, you're looking at a potentially big time return. So again, you got to accept the fact that this thing could go to zero. This is literally nothing but a speculation trade. That's about it. That's about it, guys. So keep that in mind, but keep that in mind with any trade. You have to accept the full risk. Otherwise, your ass is screwed. So it looks like, guys, here, the market's getting a little bit weaker. As I've been talking to you guys for a few minutes, again, we got an hourly squeeze here. All right, last time we had a squeeze in the hourly chart, that led to a big move after hours. Let's see if this thing can hold up, or if it squeezes before the open. And as far as a few other names this week, guys, not really planning on touching Tesla. They're a week or so out from earnings. You got Apple earnings coming up, Facebook earnings coming up in a few weeks. So keep in mind, we are starting to roll into the heart of earnings season. Don't get caught slipping, guys, holding calls on puts on something that has earnings coming up. Not only because of the risk of holding through earnings, but keep in mind, 2 weeks or so before earnings, the IV starts to rise on the calls and the puts. So what that means, guys, is that, options, they're not going to lose too much value. Not as much as they typically would. While that's to your benefit if you're looking to buy those things, for you guys who like to do put spreads or call spreads, keep that in mind. You go short in puts or calls on, say, Apple, they're not going to lose as much value even if the thing makes a move in your direction. So best of luck today, guys. Interesting squeeze here. And again, this could really set the tone for today. If we can break to the upside through 28.85, probably going to see the market really rip. If we squeeze, we fire to the downside underneath 28.21, we'll have to see how ugly it gets. So I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope to see you all in the Focus Trades family soon, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning.